to Fix Auto.
On Monday, October 9th, don't miss the KBLA Talk 1580 exclusive. The tape. 1 year later.
Y'all were coming for us.
Yeah, but Tavis, that's not in my heart. I wasn't coming for anyone like that. I apologize, but that was not me. That's not in my heart. And like I said a few moments ago, I have a solid, demonstrable record of shared power that's real and concrete. That can't be misinterpreted.
Join Tavis Smiley and an all-star panel of political insiders, influencers, and journalists for a look back at the crisis that shook LA City Hall when 4 Latino leaders were caught on tape making racist, demeaning, and derogatory statements about black people and other fellow citizens. On Monday, October 9th, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, The Tape. 1 year later. We're broadcast live in afternoon drive from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. When all was said and done, was more said than done. 1 year later. Are there fractures in LA's black-brown political partnership? And where do we go from here? Don't miss The Tape. 1 year later. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Monday, October 9th. Live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about.
Getting money ain't no to me.
Took it over. A lot of foreign talk, but dreaming up on the sofa. Let the seat back, I'm leaning all in the Rover. Make a lot of chips. Life is a game of poker. I be out.
Welcome in. Happy Monday to you. You are checking out RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the show where we hit all the trending topics across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. I, of course, am your host, Jill Munroe. I hope you had an amazing weekend, and I hope that you are situated, prepared, relaxed, and ready to get into some things because we have a lot to talk about as always, But before I even give you the rundown, I want to remind you that you can connect with us at any time on social media. Hit us up at KBLA 1580. Follow me personally at Stiletto Jill everywhere, Instagram, X, YouTube, all of those places, TikTok. Although my TikToks are kind of lacking. I need to probably pick that up, but one day it's on the list. Also, make sure that you have downloaded the app so that you can listen to it at any time, any of the hosts here on the station, any of the shows. Take care of that. Also, if you want the visual to go along with the audio for this show, it's available on YouTube. You can hit us up there. The chat is always bustling. There's always a conversation in the chat. So head over to there. Make sure you do that. And if you feel so inclined, I invite you to call in. 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. If any of these topics move you this evening and you want to share your piece, give your opinion, tell me I'm wrong. I'm never wrong, though. Just kidding. So let me give you a rundown of what we're going to get into tonight. So we're going to be talking Cameron thanking Mace for not bringing him to Bad Boy. The two have a podcast, It Is What It Is, where they talk sports and current events and issues. And on a recent episode, they discuss Cam getting his deal and who Mace introduced him to and why he made that choice. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into Deion Sanders and Michael Irvin and their special friendship. They talked over the weekend because, of course, Colorado, USC. Colorado is Hollywood, kind of west-ish, Hollywood, Rocky Mountains with every game. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what went down there. Who gave the pregame hype speech, who was in the building. We're also going to get into Terrell Owens. T.O. shared how black girls teasing him growing up, calling him black and ugly and things of that nature, kind of colored his dating experience and explaining why he chose white women. Well, I have some insight into this. So I have a couple of friends that actually used to date T.O. and met him a few years back. So we're going to talk about that, get into that. We're going to talk about Kanye West. Some footage from a documentary that he was putting together in 2018 has leaked. And it's a tad bit explosive, but it's Kanye, so of course it's explosive. We're also going to talk about Tamar Braxton. You know, she says she was blindsided by the breakup with her fiance. So we're going to get into that, plus a whole lot more because, you know, a lot has happened. Naturally, before we get into that, there's a couple of conversation starters that I have to warm you up with. Listen, the celebs were outside this weekend. They were everywhere, all over the country. So first of all, not sure if you're aware, but the Sphere is a new venue that's in Vegas. I'm sure you've seen shots of it. Like during Summer League, it was turned into a huge basketball. It has projections. It is an incredible venue. It's a colossal dome. It stands 366 feet high, 516 feet wide, and it was opened this weekend with a residency by U2. Snoop Dogg, LeBron James, and Dr. Dre were in the building, right? I know we were all mad when, I think it was Verizon, right? It was Verizon or T-Mobile. One of them dropped U2 music on all of our phones, unannounced, uninvited, but U2 is a huge touring act, and they are, you know, legends in the rock field, and they're doing a 25-show residency called UV Achung Baby live at the Sphere. So it opened. It is an incredible venue. I cannot wait to go and check something out there in Vegas. I know something amazing is probably planned for Super Bowl weekend there in that spot, so can't wait to get in and check that out. Also, we talked about this a couple of weeks back. Jay-Z and the Reform Alliance Coalition held their casino night this weekend in Atlantic City. It's their inaugural event. It was at the Ocean Resort Casino, and they raised $24 million for justice reform. So in the building were a ton of celebs. But of course, there are some things that happened, some things that were rumored to happen. I don't know if you saw footage of Tiffany Haddish backing it up on Meek Mill, hollering out, "She ready." Tiffany is going to bring the party out. She's going to make sure to turn up no matter where she is. Travis Scott was trying to get to Jay-Z. He got up and climbed across the tables, walked across the tables, literally. We'll get into more about that. Of course, more trending topics and headlines. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
More when we come forward.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action is the youth component of the impactful CBO, known as the Community Coalition. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action has chapters at almost every South LA high school. Say Yeah, as they are popularly known, is located at 80th and Vermont, but serves young people all over South LA. Under the COCO umbrella, they train youth organizers, help underserved scholars prepare for college, and work with students to help them gain admission to top universities. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action fosters teen activism, where young people have led campaigns moving tens of millions of dollars to South LA schools and forcing officials to make AP classes available to students in under-resourced institutions. SCEL scholars have taken part in the March on Washington, been published in major news outlets, and been elected to city council. Long before she was mayor, Karen Bass started the program when she founded the Community Coalition. To donate, volunteer, or enroll a student in South Central Youth Empowered Through Action, please visit cocsouthla.org. cocsouthla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
The rent is too damn high. KBLA joins you in calling for affordable housing. The LA Tenants Union is a diverse, tenant-led movement fighting for the human right to housing for all. The LA Tenants Union demands safe, affordable housing and union rent control. They organize against landlord harassment, mass evictions, and displacement, and mobilize for the repeal of the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins Act. The LA Tenants Union is on a mission to strengthen tenants' political power through education, advocacy, and direct action. To get help with your eviction or other landlord-tenant issues, take action for justice, or become a member, visit latenantsunion.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Now, I was talking about the inaugural casino night for Reform Alliance. It was put together by Jay-Z, Michael Rubin. You know, Michael Rubin is everywhere. And Meek Mill. So I mentioned that they raised $24 million. Let me tell you who was in the building. It was hosted by Kevin Hart. Kim Kardashian was there, Lala, Tom Brady. If you listen to the rumors, they say Kim is still trying to get together with Tom, but Tom is like fleeing her. We'll have to see what happens if that develops. Matthew McConaughey, Alex Rodriguez, Travis Scott. I mentioned him walking across the table to get to Jay-Z. Lil Baby, Lil Durk, Quavo, Jack Harlow, Fabulous, French Montana, Fat Joe, Neo, Lil Kim, and a bunch of other people. One of the most poignant moments in the night was when Wallow, who is the host of $1 Million Worth of Game, discussed how all of the millionaires in the room had no idea what these regular people were going through, what the people that were going through were suffering, and how disconnected they really are. And that, you know, this was probably, you know, one of the few times he would be in a situation like this, but he wants them to really understand the impact, how they can help, and what it means to be a part of something like this. So it was for a good cause. Like I said, $7.8 million was netted from the live auction alone. The winner of the blackjack tournament donated $750,000 of his $1 million payout to Reform Alliance. So I'm sure that helps with the tax write-off too. There were performances. It was an amazing night. Let me also mention that today, of course, is like Christmas for NBA fans. Well, maybe not Christmas, maybe Christmas Eve, but it is the start of Media Day. A lot is going on. You know, Dame Lillard was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, so people are looking at the Bucks and the Boston Celtics because the Celtics ended up with Drew Holiday. So they're thinking that those are the two contenders on the East for the title next season. You know, it's a lot happening on the West. The Suns are rebooted. So are the Warriors. They have Chris Paul over there. We're going to talk about what happened at the Lakers Media Day a little later because LeBron gave some interesting insight and update about Bronny that is very interesting. Also, quickly, got to drop some news. Shout out to Outkast. You know, they have had several milestones across their career. They are considered by many one of the greatest groups, if not the greatest groups, to come out of the South. And on Friday, September 29th, their album, Speaker Box, The Love Below, was certified 13 times platinum, so a diamond plus 3 more. And by that, it surpasses Eminem's The Eminem Show, which was certified 12 times platinum in 2022 as the best-selling rap album in history. So shout out to them. Most of the albums that have that distinction are double albums. You know, Biggie's Life After Death is also on that list. So is Tupac's All Eyes on Me and his Greatest Hits album. But shout out to Outkast for, you know, stepping up and putting on the South. You know, just like that, what was it, the Source Awards back in the day, the same one with Suge Knight and all of them went down. The South got something to say, and they're still saying it almost 30 years later. Andy.
This is no shade.
Okay.
This is very respectful. But let's just keep it a buck.
Let's go.
That was more so The Love Below, Andre 3000.
Yes, it was.
That's what took it to the next level.
It absolutely.
I don't hear nobody talking about Big Boy
Box,
or
no.
Speaker Box.
Nope. You're right. Listen.
And was it a hip hop album?
So
minus
here's
Big
what
Boy.
I will say. This is what I will say. In theory, not really. However, right? I do believe in genre pushing, right? And if we can talk about like Limp Bizkit and Jay-Z and what they did with Numb and that type of stuff, if we can talk about Aerosmith and Run DMC's Cross in 85, can we not say Andre 3000 expanding or pushing the limits of rap in other areas could not be considered hip hop?
I love it, but if you had to describe, I guess, the sound or the energy of hip hop to somebody who probably has never listened to hip hop at all, and you play them The Love Below, Andre 3000, it would probably give them a different perspective. I'm all about, look, artists, right? We talk about music artists. It's all art. So I'm all about expanding, pushing the lines and whatnot. Like I said, I'm not hating, but I just find it interesting that an album, in my opinion, that doesn't really sound hip hop enough for me sold that many records.
So, I mean, it was a great album, like you said, but are you more comfortable with M at the top of that list?
Once again, I'm not hating.
This is not hating. These are opinions. We're discussing hip hop. I obviously, you know, I understand what you're saying. I'm with you. You know what my preference would be. Tupac all day. What? Represent the West. He is, 30 years later, his impact is undeniable across hip hop. People are still trying to live up to the things he did, good and bad, leave that type of blueprint. But that's in the conversation for another day, one day.
I feel like, you know, America, well, let me say the globe for that matter. I feel like, although sometimes they do like aggressive forms of music, when it comes to us, when it comes to black people, though, they would rather gravitate to something a little bit more palatable, a little bit more soft, if that makes sense. Once again, I'm not hating on Andre 3 Stacks. I just I see why.
I mean, I understand why too, but do you think that's true? Because the biggest consumers of like Straight Outta Compton, Doggy Style, those albums were who? The Midwestern white kids, right?
Of course, they got the bread. You know what I mean? I just feel like, who made the comment about ain't nobody bumping Eminem or something like that, right?
Me.
Okay, so no disrespect, but who's bumping The Love Below? Who's like, yo, put that Outkast The Love Below? They may say put Aquemini or ATLiens up in there or Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music.
The Love Below has replay value to me. I like Hey Ya. I was shaking it like a Polaroid picture, right? The Prototype, that was a dope song.
None of it came off hip hop-ish. Although I understand.
But it's rap.
He was kind of singing on them records.
He was singing, but there is rap.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of hip hop and rap, right? Mace and Cameron, as I mentioned, have a podcast. It is what it is. It talks sports, but they talk other things as well. And on a recent episode, Cam was discussing, you know, Mace and Cam used to be in a group called Bloodshed, Murder Mace, Kill a Cam. That's how their introduction. They obviously were friendly in high school, I believe. They played hoops, different teams, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And now they have this podcast together. You know, they were in this group. Mace helped Cam get a deal. He didn't take him to Bad Boy where he was signed, though. He took him to Biggie, which ended up with Cam getting with Lance Riviere, and the rest was history, including me and my hip-hop history moment, because, you know, I am on a skit on one of Cam's albums. So, yeah, we'll get into that. I am definitely on a skit. Here comes Andy. Let's hear it.
That better not be what was my favorite Cameron album? The Purple something.
No. It was actually, it was for the Sports, Drugs, and Entertainment
album.
His second album. That album, it actually, I think, got scrapped or what. He was going through some things with Epic. And the song is What Means the World to You. But it's the original version of it, which is Give Me Some Dome. And there's a skit on the beginning of it, and it's your girl in that skit.
What Mean the World? I thought that was, you know what? I'll take that back. Horse and Carriage was his first single.
It was.
Which came off of Confessions of Fire. But What Means the World to You was the first single off of Sports, Drugs, and Entertainment.
Exactly. So there it is. So, yes, I'm on a skit on that album. But anyway, in this conversation, I thought it was pretty interesting because it was an honest moment. And listen, you don't, see that in hip hop all the time. So I want to listen to their conversation, listen to Mace's reasoning why he didn't take Cam to Bad Boy, because I thought it was pretty interesting.
Wait, I get a lot of people in the comments before we go. I want to ask Mace 2 questions a week because Mace doesn't get interviews. So a lot of people be like, yo, you can ask Mace this, you can ask Mace that. Seriously, this word everything I love. So I want to say every week I'm going to ask Mace 2 questions that the fans ask me that he doesn't do because Mace doesn't do interviews.
All right.
And he'll say he not talking about it or he will. So I'll just say I'm delivering the message.
All right.
So one question that I got is that a lot of people want to know, and they always ask me this, is that when you had your record deal, why did you take me to Biggie Smalls and not Bad Boy?
That's a man, it's almost gonna bring me to tears to say this. I just, being that I saw you as such a good friend, I wanted to put you with somebody I knew with.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. A lot of people ask me that on Instagram, man. Don't have me just out here crying, man. I don't want to get emotional in here, man.
Instantly, I knew Biggie would do right by you.
Right.
So right. I thought he would do the.
Thank you, man. I don't got time to start crying in here, murder.
So listen, I thought that was pretty poignant because it kind of leads credence to Mace felt in the moment that everything wasn't right with Bad Boy, even though he was in the shiny suits in the videos with him and Puff and the Rolexes rocking back and forth. He didn't feel like it was a good situation that he wanted to put his boy in. So, shout out to them. I know that there was some years where they didn't connect and speak. I'm happy to see them back together. You know what I didn't realize about the show, though? I didn't realize that it was shot in Vegas. I didn't know that Cam lived in Vegas, and now I'm confused. Does Mace live in Vegas, too? It's interesting. Well, check out It Is What It Is. Shout out to Mace and Cam. You know, they got O.J. Simpson as their NFL contributor this season. Enough said. So listen, of course, like I said, we have so much to talk about. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, Beyonce had the final shows from Renaissance this weekend. And they just happened to be in where? Kansas City. And Kansas City is the home of who? AMC Theaters. And what's happening December 1st? Beyonce is dropping what looks to be, I don't know if it's actually Act 2. I know there were some rumors about that, but basically a film and documentary version of her tour. Now, of course, Taylor Swift is dropping her Eras film from her tour in a couple of weeks. Same type of deal, $100 million in pre-sales, kind of almost not saving AMC, but really helping their bottom line because, the theater business has been suffering since before the pandemic, but especially since the pandemic. So, of course, Swifties and the Beehive have been battling it out about who has the better sales numbers, who's doing what, and so forth. I just want to point out that Beyonce is not following in Taylor's footprints. First of all, Beyonce has been doing documentaries and concert films for years. She had the Live at Wembley Stadium like 20 years ago. Of course, she had The Homecoming, which hit Netflix. It's not new. This isn't new for Beyonce. She had the I Am Sasha Fierce documentary on HBO a couple of years back. So there's that. Secondly, it takes a lot of work to put together a documentary and to film this. So they didn't just decide, oh, Taylor's doing it, let's us do it too. And it works out that way. This has obviously been planned for a while. And if you don't believe me, check out some of Beyonce's photos from earlier in the year before the tour started on her Instagram. She's sitting in a theater, a movie theater. Beyonce likes to put little Easter eggs out there as far as her Instagram and the photos and things like that to give you a clue of what's coming. So that's what's coming. Shout out to the Bee, Queen Bee. She's directing this as well. Can you imagine? You're on tour, you're creative directing your performance and your whole tour and directing a documentary behind the scenes and being a mom. Go off, Bee. Go off, Queen Bee. Andy?
Yeah, I'm just curious to know if people really think that. I feel like the media is pushing this whole Taylor Swift versus Beyonce. Like, do people think that this is a real thing?
What, the battle between them?
The quote unquote battle.
I think that people think it's a real thing because they are on tour at the same time. And there's a battle of which tour is making more money amongst the fans. Because as I said, fans are much more involved in the who's number one, the dollars and cents than they have been probably in years past.
I think it's a little bit unfair. And the reason why I say that is because, hate to say it, man, Taylor Swift is white.
Right. And appeals to an average white girl, which there are more of and whatever. But Beyonce is doing her thing. Let's be clear. From what I understand, from what I read in the New York Times, it said that Beyonce will have generated an estimated $4.5 billion for the American economy, about as much as the 2008 Olympics did for Beijing. That's with the Renaissance tour. So baby girl's doing her thing, right? Let's talk about it. When we come forward, we'll get into this T.O. story. Terrell Owens, the Hall of Famer, has some thoughts, and I have some thoughts to add to Terrell's, admission, because there's a little more than what was there in that conversation, and there always is. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports is up next.
I got that water Bobby bullshit. I can keep it simple just like lemonade. I've been getting paid since Minute-Maid. Yeah. What we doing? Throwing money at the room. Yeah, what we doing? Throwing money at the room. Throwing money at the room. Yeah, what we doing? Throwing money at the room. What we doing? Throwing money at the room. I pack light, driving straight up to the plane. Came from a Dodge Intrepid, scratches on the paint. We vacation at Beverly Hills State.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A Portland, Oregon man who is accused of making racial threats against two women in his Gresham apartment complex has been indicted on 33 charges. Ring camera video shows 19-year-old Dominic Austin armed with a knife and threatening to rape and kill the victims. Millions of Americans are facing student loan payments again. The requirement officially went back into effect on Sunday after an over 3-year pause during the COVID pandemic. The Supreme Court blocked a policy in June that would have forgiven $20,000 in student loan debt for many borrowers. Mariah Carey will head out on tour this holiday season. The singer announced the Merry Christmas One and All tour will visit 13 cities. Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You is the top-selling holiday song by a female artist in history. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com. Make it a great and safe Monday.
let a traffic accident ruin your day. Visit fixautousa.com to find the nearest Fix Auto location. Their highly trained and certified technicians will have you back on the road in no time. You have a choice on who fixes your vehicle. Tell your insurance agent that you want to go to Fix Auto.
On Monday, October 9th, don't miss the KBLA Talk 1580 exclusive. The tape. 1 year later.
Y'all were coming for us. Yeah, but Tavis, that's not in my heart. I wasn't coming for anyone like that. I apologize, but that was not me. That's not in my heart. And like I said a few moments ago, I have a solid, demonstrable record of shared power that's real and concrete. That can't be misinterpreted.
Join Tavis Smiley and an all-star panel of political insiders, influencers, and journalists for a look back at the crisis that shook LA City Hall when 4 Latino leaders were caught on tape making racist, demeaning, and derogatory statements about black people and other fellow citizens. On Monday, October 9th, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, The Tape. 1 year later. We'll broadcast live an afternoon drive from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. When all was said and done, was more said than done. 1 year later. Are there fractures in LA's black-brown political partnership? And where do we go from here? Don't miss The Tape. 1 year later. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Monday, October 9th. Live from 5 to 7 p.m. with an immediate encore presentation from 7 to 9 p.m. We've got a lot to talk about.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JP Morgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
If you're a veteran with a service-connected disability that is directly impacting your ability to work, resources are available to help you find employment. VA's Veteran Readiness and Employment, or VR&E, can assist you with finding a job that uses your existing skills. Or, if you're interested in exploring a new field, a VR&E counselor can help you determine the right education or training options for a new career. Find out if VR&E is right for you by visiting va.gov/VRE today.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'll meet you up there. All right.
Andy is being funny. Let me tell you something. Welcome in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. You know, I am ride or die West Coast. I am for my city. I put on from LA. I let it be known that it's West Coast. You know, the East Coast don't got no love for death row. The West Coast, all that. However, I do not want to hear California love again. I am so burnt out on that. It's been that way for about 12 years now. I know it's a classic. I know it's a classic because it has Roger Troutman on it from Zapp. I love Roger Troutman. Before there was auto-tune, there was the vocal box, and he used to be with the little straw-looking thing in his mouth. But I don't want to hear California love no more. And Andy saw that going up in the chat, and he was like, I'm going to drop it in.
Look. It wasn't to be funny at you. It was more so much love to Forensic Accountant, because is it a female or a male?
Forensic Accountant's a man.
Oh, not according to him, but shout out to him. He just gave me the inspiration to play the remix version of California Love, which I think is doper than the original. So that's the reason.
So
it wasn't
agree?
to take shots at you, but you know.
Shout out to Geechee Dan in the chat, said, I can never get enough of that song. Listen, it is a great song. I just do not need to hear it.
I'm with you. They definitely, when you think about West Coast music, of course, that's probably one of the go-to songs that they play.
It is. It's always. And again, great song, but there are a lot of great West Coast songs. And that's about it on that.
Hold on, dog. I got a question for you.
Yes.
How do you feel? Because there's some people that like to make jokes and say that, you know, Tupac is not technically from the West Coast. So that doesn't make him a West Coast artist.
I understand that he was born in New York, right? But his formative years, right? We know he spent some time in Baltimore and da-da-da-da-da-da. We know we've all seen the video of him and Jada. We know they met in high school at the Performing Arts School. But his formative years were here in the Bay, right? And that's where he helped shape his sound, what he was going to do in the industry, and that's what he claimed. So that's what it is. And yes, we are going to talk about the arrest of Keefe D. We're also going to talk about Suge Knight's comments, because Suge has said that if called, he's going to do this if asked to testify. So we'll get into that a little later. On the line, though, we have my girl, TV and film critic, boxing host of the best boxing show. The best one? Wait, I might be jacking up the name. Let me back up. I know the period part. I know it's the best boxing show. Giandra LaBeouf is in the building.
Hey, it's the best women's boxing show.
Period. I left the women out. I was like, and you can't do that because you and your twin brain Sin. Like, I saw you guys out there moving and shaking all weekend at Vegas. I saw how Canelo rolled up on you, you know, all of that. Listen, go hit up Giandra's Instagram and the best women's boxing show, period, for all of that footage. Thank you for calling in, Giandra.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I, too, don't want to hear California Love anymore. I'm Team Jill on that for sure. I mean, the way people are snatching and grabbing in California, they need to be playing Sugar Free.
Man, listen. So we're going to talk about the fight because I want your impressions. And really, you were spot on when you called last Monday. What you said, it's pretty much kind of what ended up happening, but we'll get into that. But before we do, Terrell Owens, NFL Hall of Famer, we know famously pulled out the Sharpie and autographed the football, stomped on logos, you know, Hall of Famer. Like, T.O. has had a controversial career, right?
Right.
He had a conversation with Chad Ochocinco. They were teammates on the Bengals. They had a show, kind of podcast thing, you know, yin and yang. Good conversation between them always, right? And so in a conversation recently, they were talking about relationships, and T.O. opened up about why he dates white women and what made him get into this. So I want you to listen to what he has to say, and I want to get your impressions before I share my thoughts.
My experiences with black women growing up wasn't so good. When I started dating white girls, my first experience with white girls is when I went to college. I tried to date some black girls when I was in college. They did not like me. I was skinny. I was strong.
Right.
I was teased from high school, even to college. I got teased for being dark skinned.
Damn,
So
they tease you, cuz?
Yeah. So there was a lot of self-esteem issues.
Right.
No, I'm being dead honest. So when I got my opportunity, when my first experience with a white girl, I'm like, okay, it wasn't bad, but that wasn't. I just totally gravitated to white girls after that.
Right.
That wasn't the situation. So again, my experiences with black women growing up wasn't so good. So, but that still didn't deter me from still dating or pursuing black girls. Right. So my thing now is because I know there's this stigma. The stereotypical of athletes, to go off and date the opposite color, opposite race. But for me now, where I am, it's not even about color. It's not even about race. For me, it's about somebody that I have some chemistry with, good energy, and I get a good vibe with. That's where I am. Like I said, we all want somebody that's attractive.
Right,
you know what I mean? Aesthetics going to play a big part in it. Anybody that says, oh, well, I don't care what a person looks like, that's a lie. That's a lie. We all want somebody that we can roll over and wake up to, that's, you know what I mean, that looks pleasing to the eye. Everybody's experiences have been different. For me, when I grew up, I was in my high school pretty much is 50, I don't know what percentage black, white, but I lived in a black neighborhood. So at the end of the day, I attempted to date black.
We get it, right? He's attempting. So, Giandra, from that, I want to hear your thoughts.
I don't want to. So, I'm not going to devalue his what he says and his experiences because these are his experiences. However, how would you even develop a meaningful interaction, relationship, friendship, anything with a black woman if you've already got this implicit bias? So his mind is not already even open to even receiving if there was a decent black woman, not decent, that's the wrong word. If there was a sister out there that wanted to pursue him or vice versa, I think he should just say, I don't date black women and be done with it and not give us all these extras and all of the things he's talking about, because I'm listening to how Chad Ochocinco is reacting to him. They're roughly the same age, right?
Yep.
So why he's dark-skinned, equally dark-skinned, tall. He's still thin. I'm sure he was even skinnier growing up. That's not his. I don't know. T.O. just sounds like he's corny. I don't know.
So listen, when we come forward, I am going to get into my personal experience with T.O. and dating. I know a couple of young ladies who've dated him.
Oh.
A couple. Not me.
I was ready to
No, ma'am.
I thought it was tea time. Okay.
Not me. No, I know some young ladies that I actually met Terrell about 20 years ago. So I have some insight into this. Plus, I want to bring some things into the conversation I think are important to consider. And in no way, shape, or form am I detracting from his experience. I just want to add to the conversation. So when we come forward, we'll get into all of that. Plus, we'll get Giandra's reaction on Canelo and Charlo from this weekend. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege.
Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Protho-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. On the line, we have Giandra LaBeouf. We are talking about Pro Football Hall of Famer, former NFL star Terrell Owens, and his admission that, black women weren't kind to him, so it kind of shifted his interest sort of into white women, but he says that now he's just about vibes, no color lines, like they used to say back in the day. Shannon Thompson in the chat says, bye, Terrell. Geechee Dan says, if you're from the South, T.O. is speaking the truth. Forensic Accountant says, I don't blame Terrell. In fact, I salute him for not ruining the lives of women in whom he has no interest. That is an interesting point that we're going to put a pin in, because I'm going to come back to that. That is something that I want to speak on. Pretty Brown Mimi says, if Terrell prefers white women, just say that. Don't spin this negative narrative about black women. Giandra agrees with that.
Wholeheartedly.
And Geechee Dan wants to make sure that I am not invalidating T.O.'s experiences. So here's the thing. I'm not at all. Kids are cruel. He grew up in Alabama. I have no doubt that he was teased. I have no doubt that some women were not the nicest to him, right? And we've heard stuff like this before. But there's a couple of things within that. One, right? Usually when we hear that, Geechee Dan says, okay, I'm from New Orleans, homie, home of the light-skinned, dark-skinned mess. I feel you. You know, there's a lot of colorism issues here in Los Angeles that we can talk about. What I will say, though, is one, I believe that he was teased. I believe that it impacted him. I believe that it hurt his feelings. But let's be clear. Every black woman on the planet did not know him at that time. So you can't inflict that energy on everybody. You guys would not like it if black women did that to men and the commentary that they give, especially to the darker skinned sisters and things of that nature, right? So that's step one. Step two is, while I do believe him, right? By the time you got to college, Terrell, you were playing football. Those same black girls may have felt differently, because we don't know what the white girls would have felt like. What were the white girls in your town saying about you? Were they taking an interest in you then? We don't know, right? Everybody kind of got more interested when football got in the mix. And we don't know. Maybe they would have been nicer before, but we don't know. What I will say that I know from having a couple of friends that dated Terrell, and let me state for the record, they're all black. Some of them are lighter than others, right? But they were all black. It's about 4 friends. Didn't know each other, but, you know, I am the common thread. Terrell was not exactly always nice and welcoming to the black women he did choose to date under the guise of the trauma that he had been through before. So while he says, yeah, I was still dating black women through this, you weren't nice to them, and you didn't give them the same amount of leeway that you would these other women. You were much more strict with some of these women than perhaps you would have been, or you were, with a woman of another race. There was comments about it, right? I'm not going to get into all of that, but, you know, listen, he has probably grown up. As I said, we're talking 20 years ago, somewhere in there, somewhere within the 20-year time span, right? And so listen, I understand hurt people and all of that. But please don't position it as if you did not inflict that hurt back to women that were not there and not the cause. And then here's the other thing. A lot of times when we hear this, because this is a similar conversation we've heard from Donald Glover and some others as far as what black women did and women that wouldn't talk to them, I often wonder, are these men going out of their league like we hear so many black women told that they are? If you aren't in position to get the top quality women, because somehow men always feel like they're entitled to the best of the best. I'm sure there was a black girl that loved Terrell that wasn't fine. Do you know what I mean? And nobody was saying, give her a shot. Or he wasn't seriously giving her a shot because she didn't aesthetically fit the mold. But you have the expectation that the woman that you were going for that probably was, you know, a upper tier should have given you the opportunity. Why? So I just wanted to...
No one ever thinks about that.
You know, so that is just kind of my thought on this. And again, I am not taking away from his experience. I believe it happened. He's mentioned it. He mentioned it on his show, the T.O. show, which used to air on VH1. He had 2 black women that he had guiding his career, Keita and Mo, 2 of my friends. I love them. I've known them for over 20 years. They both used to work at Def Jam. Met them before that. So I have a great deal of respect. He hires black women, you know, and put them in play. But sometimes his thoughts at the time, as far as relationships, don't match up to what he's saying now. And that's fine. We all grow. We are allowed to change our mind. We are allowed to grow through an experience. I think people don't give credence to that as often anymore, but I think that it is something that should be brought attention to, because we hear this and it's just like, oh, black women are the villain. And we probably were in that story, in that instance. I'm not taking away from that. But I think that there's an other side. You didn't just say, oh, these white women are accepting of me and they're there with open arms. Hey, they weren't around when you were broke either. So we don't know what anybody would have done as far as the situation. So we're going to get to the comments. Richard Moore in the chat says, Black people don't like each other. That's the way it is. Richard, you're going to have to explain. Explain in the chat what you mean by that. We're going to go back through that. I think I understand to some degree, but I want you to explain deeper because that's an interesting statement. In the meantime, we're putting a pin on this. We're going to circle back. We're not leaving this alone. But Giandra, I want to get your thoughts on the fight this weekend. How was Vegas? What are your thoughts? What happened with Charlo? He let us down. Not really, because it's kind of what we expected, but talk to me, girl.
I mean, I'm going to talk to you about the fight, but before the pin's all the way in, I'm just going to say this. Every single white woman he pursued and was interested in, he automatically got. And was he as punitive to them as he is to Black women, number one?
And I'm going to say no, not knowing everything, exactly. But what I do know.
And then secondly, what other group of ethnicity on earth talks about their women the way Black men do? I've never seen any Asian men or men of other cultures talk about how they don't date their women because this, that, and the third. But that's a whole nother show, a whole nother conversation. But back to the fight. The fight went exactly as we expected it to go. If you listened to me last week, I told you, I hope you didn't bet on Charlo because you're out of your money. And it was just going to be a clear thing. And respectfully, shout out to Charlo for daring to be great. But did he really dare to be great? He dared to collect a big payday. With the difference between this and the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford fight, Spence just got outboxed and defeated, but he still went out on his sword.
Right.
Charlo, it was like he didn't even try. He was afraid. I'm not going to say afraid because it's disrespectful. He was on the defensive and on the bike for the majority of the fight. I feel like if he had engaged more, then my prediction would have been spot on because it looked around. I think I texted you around the 7th or 8th round, and I said, my prediction is about to come to fruition because Canelo was moving in. And when he saw that, he was on the bike, and he was out of there. But boxers have weight classes for a reason. 14 pounds to go up to fight a fighter is a lot. And so just so we're clear, for people who are lay people and just kind of casually watch boxing or are not super duper fitness people or whatever, putting on 14 pounds is not the same like going on vacation for 6 weeks and gaining weight. You're trying to put on 14 pounds of muscle and strength to fight a person who naturally fights at that bigger weight. So by putting on 14 pounds in 6-8 weeks or however long, whatever they were doing in his camp, it's going to make you slow. So even though he was able to pick up the size, his body couldn't adapt with that much more weight. And because of that, it made him gun shy. Canelo seems like he's just a battle fighter, but he has a lot of tricks, a lot of head movement, he batters your body, hitting you in the hip, hitting you in the shoulder. He's making you pay, pounding on you. But,
listen,
Charlo found out.
Listen, we are going to put a pin in that. We're going to, when we come forward, get into more of that. We're going to get into more of this Terrell Owens story, and we're going to talk Kanye. All of that and more. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West, a state that's untouchable like Elliot Ness. The track hits your eardrum like a slug to your chest. Pack a vest for your Jimmy in the city of sex. We in that sunshine state where the bomb ass hemp be. The state where you never find a dance floor empty and pimp speed.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest.